The Pandavas set out for the forest, and the whole city broke its heart to watch them go. Crowds jammed the streets, climbed the roofs and towers and trees for a last sight of their beloved princess. It was less a departure than a grief made public, a whole people mourning something that could not be undone. Men who had ridden in jeweled chariots and on lordly elephants to the sound of auspicious music now walked away from their birthright on weary, dusty feet. The contrast was almost too cruel to look at. The emperors of a season ago, trudging into the wild like the poorest of pilgrims, past ranks of weeping citizens, from every side rose the same cry. Fie and alas! Does God not see this from his heaven? The people could not reconcile what they were watching with any idea of justice. If the good could be robbed and exiled, while the wicked kept the throne, then what, they asked, the empty sky was the world for? In his dark palace, the blind king Dhritarashtra sat restless and afraid and sent for Vidura. "Tell me," he said, "describe to me how the Pandavas went into exile." He could not see it, and so he needed to hear it. And some part of him perhaps needed to make himself feel the weight of what his weakness had done. Vidura painted it for him, and every detail was an accusation. Yudhishthir went with his face covered by a cloth. Bhima walked staring at his own mighty arms. Arjuna scattered sand along his path. Nakula and Sahadev smeared themselves with dust. Draupadi followed with her hair loose across her face and her eyes streaming. And Dhaumya the priest walked before them, singing the hymns of Yam, Lord of Death. Each image sunk deeper into the king, and his fear grew with it. He understood the meanings. Bhima's stare that memorized his arms for vengeance. Arjuna's scattered sand that promised to bury his enemies. The priest's dirge for a death yet to come. Dhritarashtra had loosed all this, and now, sightless, he sat and felt it gathering. And what do the citizens say? The king asked, dreading the answer. Vidura gave it to him unsoftened, in their own words. Our leaders have left us. Shame on the elders of the Kuru race who allowed this. The cowardice Dhritarashtra and his sons have driven the Pandavas into the forest. And even the sky is vexed. Cloudless lightning, a quaking earth, evil portents on every side. As they spoke, the air changed, and the sage Narada stood suddenly before them, come from nowhere, as the great sages do. His presence stilled the room, and both men fell silent, feeling that something was about to be said that could not be unsaid. Narada spoke once, and it was a sentence. 14 years from this day, the Kauravas will be destroyed for the crime Duryodhana has committed. And then he was gone, as suddenly as he had come, leaving the words hanging in the air like a struck bell that would not stop ringing. The doom now had a date. The prophecy reached Duryodhana and his faction, and for once fear cut through their triumph. They hurried to Drona and begged him, "Whatever comes, Master, never abandon us." They wanted the great teacher's strength as a shield against a future that had just been named. And they wanted to be told the prophecy was wrong. Drona gave them no comfort. "I believe, with the wise, that the Pandavas are of divine birth and cannot be conquered," he said gravely. "Yet my duty binds me to fight for you, whose salt I eat, and I will fight with my whole heart. But do not mistake me. Destiny is all-powerful, and the Pandavas will return from that forest burning with a righteous anger. And I know what anger is," Drona went on, "for I once dethroned and shamed Drupad out of mine. And Drupad, implacable, performed a sacrifice for a son born to kill me. That son is Dhritarashtra, who now stands, as fate would have it, brother-in-law and dearest friend to the Pandavas. Everything is moving as it was foreordained. He was reading his own death in the same page as theirs. Your days are numbered. Drona told them plainly. Do good while you can. Perform sacrifices. Enjoy what is blameless. Give to the needy. Nemesis comes in the 14th year. Duryodhana. My counsel is this. Make peace with Yudhishthir. But of course, he added, you will do exactly as you please. He knew his advice was already dead in the air. Duryodhana turned away, displeased, his heart shut against every word. He would not seek peace. He would not doubt his course. The prophecies of sages were, to him, so much noise against the solid fact of his winnings. The seeds of ruin were watered by his own refusal to hear. Elsewhere, the wise Sanjaya found the blind king sunk in misery and asked him gently why. And Dhritarashtra answered from the bottom of himself, how can I ever know peace, having wronged the Pandavas? For a moment, the king saw his guilt clearly, which was always his tragedy. He could see and never act. True, said Sanjay, and told him the terrible mechanism of ruin. When fate turns against a man, it first perverts his judgment, stripping away his sense of right and wrong. Time does not come with a club to break a man's head. It destroys his judgment and lets him rush madly to his own destruction. Your sons have insulted Panchali and set their own feet on that road. Dhritarashtra bowed his head. I did not walk the path of dharma and wise statecraft, he confessed. I let my foolish son mislead me, and now we hurtle toward the abyss. It was a true confession, and as always with this king, a confession offered instead of a correction. He named his sin and did nothing to stop committing it. Vidura would not let him rest in his remorse. Again and again he pressed the king. Your son has done a great wrong. Yudhishthir has been cheated. Was it not your duty to turn your children from vice to virtue? Even now, order the Pandavas' kingdom restored. Recall Yudhishthir. Make peace. And if Duryodhana will not listen to reason, restrain him by force. At first, the king listened in sad silence, knowing Vidura wiser and truer than himself. But guilt wearies of the voice that names it. And one day, his patience snapped. You always speak for the Pandavas and against my sons. He burst out. You do not wish us well. Duryodhana is my own flesh. How can I cast him off? I have lost my faith in you. Go. Go to your beloved Pandavas if you like. And he turned his back and withdrew. Vidura took him at his word, certain now that the ruin of the Kuru race was fixed. Heartsick, he mounted a swift chariot and drove to the forest to be with the Pandavas, the one just man in Hastinapura, leaving the palace to the plotters. And no sooner had he gone than Dhritarashtra was seized with remorse. What have I done? Strengthened Duryodhana and driven wise Vidura to the enemy. So the king sent Sanjay racing after him with a repentant message. Forgive the thoughtless words of an unhappy father and come home. Sanjay found the Pandavas in the forest, clad in deerskin among the sages, and Vidura with them, and told him the blind king would die of grief if he did not return. And Vidura, who was dharma itself in human shape and could not harden his heart against a suffering man, went back. Dhritarashtra caught him in his arms, and their quarrel dissolved in the tears of two old men who needed each other. Some time after, the sage Maitreya came to the court and was received with honor. Dhritarashtra begged his blessing and asked anxiously after the exiles. Revered one, you must have met my children the Pandavas. Are they well? Will affection hold in our family undiminished? Maitreya answered that he had met Yudhishthir in the Kamyaka forest, learnt all that had happened at Hastinapura, and marveled that such things could be permitted while Bhishma and the king yet lived. Then he turned to Duryodhana, present in the hall, and counseled him, for his own sake, to make peace with cousins, both mighty and kin to Krishna and Drupad. Duryodhana's answer was to laugh. He slapped his thighs in derision and turned away without a word, mocking the sage who wished him well. And Maitreya's patience burned to anger. Are you so arrogant that you slap your thighs at one who seeks your good? Then hear this. That very thigh will be shattered by Bhima's make, and you will die upon the battlefield. Dhritarashtra fell at the sage's feet, begging pardon, and Maitreya relented only thus. My curse will not touch him if he makes peace with the Pandavas. Otherwise, it stands. And he strode out, leaving the curse hanging over the house like a sword.